Hello, my name is Thomas Noble, and this is We Will Get By. Today our topic is the Patriot Act, Bill 357-66. What caused it, what did it do, and what is it still doing today? From Al-Qaeda to Snowden, we will get by.
It's even worse than it appears, but it's alright. We will get by. We will get by. We will get by. We will survive.
The roots of the Patriot Act were uniting and strengthening America by providing appropriate tools required to intercept and obstruct terrorism act, as it is officially called, can be traced back to the Middle Eastern terrorist group called Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda is an organization that was formed in the 80s in response to the Soviet invasion of Afghanistan. During the invasion, the US and Al-Qaeda were allies, with the US giving Al-Qaeda weapons and money to help combat the Soviet invaders. However, later during the Gulf War and the subsequent US presence in the Middle East in the 90s, Al-Qaeda's opinion of the United States changed. On September 11, 2001, Al-Qaeda terrorists hijacked 4 airplanes. They crashed 2 into the World Trade Center, 1 into each tower, one into the Pentagon, the headquarters for the United States Department of Defense, and the 4th crashed into a field in Pennsylvania after the plane's passengers took back control.
Touch of the rain. I will get by. I will get by. I will get by. I will survive.
45 days later, President George W. Bush passed the Patriot Act with only 1 Senate vote against it. The Patriot Act gave the government the ability to revoke the rights of anyone that they believed were terrorists. This included giving the FBI the ability to violate the 4th Amendment, which states that people have the right to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects, against unreasonable searches and seizures. Basically, if the FBI suspects that you are or have information about a terrorist, they're allowed to go through your house, computers, papers, anything. They can take anything that they feel could be useful for their investigation, and they don't have to tell you or anyone else about it. Nadine Strossen was the president of the ACLU, or American Civil Liberties Union, when the act was passed. Let's hear a little about what she thinks of it.
John Ashcroft was Attorney General at the time and said he actually used the word hysterical when he criticized the critics. And you may remember that he actually used rhetoric in the Senate in which he suggested that we were unpatriotic or even traitors. And yet, who is exaggerating here? A 350-page law passed in 45 days with almost no debate, almost no hearings. It amended many other laws, so even reading the 350 pages wasn't enough. You would have to cross-reference the other laws. Most members of Congress said they didn't even have time to read it.
Now, I know that some of you are wondering how this ever passed. To explain, let me give you a comparison. In December 1941, Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, killing approximately 2,000 soldiers. The United States responded by joining the largest war in the history of the world, and by declaring martial law, imprisoning tens of thousands of U.S. citizens. In 9/11, there were 1.5 times that many casualties. all of which were civilian. If the fear from Pearl Harbor caused the U.S. government to restrict the rights of approximately 100,000 citizens, it isn't that hard to believe that the largest attack against the U.S. on U.S. soil since the Civil War would lead to an act whose purpose was to, and I quote, deter and punish terrorist acts in the United States and around the world. However, as time went on, the Patriot Act rapidly lost popularity. As you can see by these statistics, by the year 2003, only 2 years after its passing, approximately 1 in 4 people thought that this bill, which had passed with only 1 vote against, went too far. In fact, by 2005, a massive 68% of the population believed that one of the key legal changes that the Patriot Act instated, the search and seizure without a warrant, went too far. The general argument against the Patriot Act is, and has always been, that it infringes on our privacy rights. And this argument reaches across the aisle. Republican Rand Paul of Kentucky told the press that the Patriot Act, quote, tramples on individual liberties. And though Illinois Democrat Dick Durbin voted for the act when it first went to Congress, he is quoted as saying that soon after, he realized that he had voted for it, quote, while ground zero was still burning, and that it, quote, gave too much power to the government without enough judicial and congressional oversight. However, despite its continually decreasing popularity, the Patriot Act was still renewed by President Barack Obama on May 26, 2011. This allowed for the act to continue through the present and will allow it to continue for years to come unchanged. Meanwhile, also under President Obama, the Patriot Act allowed for the NSA, or National Security Agency, to begin invading the privacy of all Americans, looking into their emails, texts, and any other methods of communication without their knowledge.
The NSA specifically targets the communications of everyone. It ingests them by default. It collects them in its system, and it filters them, and it analyzes them, and it measures them, and it stores them for periods of time, simply because that's the easiest, most efficient, and most valuable way to achieve these ends.
The man you just saw was Edward Snowden. He was responsible for leaking the secrets of what the NSA was doing to the public, and has since fled the US for fear of retribution. October 26, 2001. President George W. Bush passes the Patriot Act into law. The land of the free trades freedom for security, and the home of the brave cowers.
It's even